Chapter 51:18. Wn Dao Jian Zun, the body wood and the axe are perfectly integrated, and the lines on the axe burst out with rays of light. Picture after picture squeezed into his mind, the towering Buddha with kind eyebrows and good eyes, the rough head of the monk went to death quickly, the head of the white and clean monk was pinched, and the little novice Hui Qing lowered his eyebrows and closed his eyes, pinching the beads. The scenes came into my mind until I saw my deity standing on the battlefield of the Wangu era. As he received these images, the stone axe suddenly flew out of his hand and flew towards the giant man. You. The giant man saw the intact axe, grinned, reached out and grabbed the axe floating in front of him. At this moment, the axe is like one with the giant, exerting its greatest power in the giant's hands. The lines above have also become secret texts, and he learned how to use secret texts by hacking again and again. He didn't stop until the muddy air was higher than the giant again. The turbidity disappeared, the world became brighter again, and the giant also saw Jian Wushuang in the distance. This time he did not rush forward, but bowed his head and touched the axe in his hand, roared at Jian Wushuang, and left. Looking through all things in the forest, Jian Wushuang saw the giant man sitting cross-legged in a tree hole, and he closed his eyes to comprehend the lines on the axe. This. Losing the body-mind is nothing, but why does the body-mind actively merge with the axe and then fly to the giant? All this contained too much. Jian Wushuang thoughtfully decided to start observing the giant's every move. The giant was cross-legged in the tree hole. After an unknown period of time, the muddy air sank again. This time, the giant made the turbid air rise by just one axe. In just a few breaths, his exhaustion of tens of thousands of axes was stopped before he stopped, and the turbid air also rose by tens of thousands. The tired giant fell and continued to comprehend the lines cross-legged, although the lines above were very simple for Jian Wushuang, but only the faint traces of the road when his extreme power exploded. But even these faint scars are still comparable to the ordinary avenue of immortality. Although the giant has no guidance, he can understand how fast the lines on the axe are. The muddy air sank several times, and the giant relied on the axe to chop it until it was exhausted. From the first million axes to the last million axes. But the faster he splits, the faster the muddy air sinks. Jian Wushuang, who was observing the giant, secretly had an answer in his heart. As for the lines on the axe, it was originally left by him, and naturally it was clearer than anyone. At the beginning of the texture, there is wind, and the pursuit is speed. Therefore, every time the giant smashes the muddy air, the amount of it will increase several times. Avenue to Jane. The quantity is easy to add up, but the difficulty is to shorten the quantity and pursue qualitative change. Sure enough, after reaching the realm of the million axe, the giant began to stagnate. Fortunately, although he was simple and honest, he was not a dead brain. He began to try to penetrate some of the essence of the million axe. The muddy air sank again. Cool. The giant axe cleaved for the first time, and a thick breath struck, directly raising the turbid aura to 100 feet high. Jian Wushuang, standing in the distance, flashed his eyes. As the top evangelist, his memory is so powerful. Of course, he can see that this axe is the 3,600th of the giant's previous million axes. At this time, he was a little surprised. Cool. What? Drink. Every time the giant cleaved, the turbid chi rose by 100 meters. This time he only hacked 100 axe, which made the turbid chi rise for 10,000 battles. If he splits a million axe, the turbid chi will rise to 100. Wn Zhon, but he didn't do that. Putting away the axe, he returned to the tree hole again and continued to comprehend the lines on the axe. Jian Wushuang's figure flashed and entered the muddy air. Cool. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath of muddy air. This turbid gas is similar to fetal gas, it is left after the birth of life, but why does it stay after the birth of life? Emperor Zhen Wuyang, after taking that step, expanded the big division domain and expanded the border into the great wilderness, which can be said to have expanded to the limit. Will this turbid air be the same as the situation in Darciu? Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered, boldly guessing in his heart. There is a limit to how high the turbid air can rise. It is about 100 million battle height, and then it will not sink any more, and the sky and the earth will always be clearly visible. The strength of the giant nowadays is probably able to make the turbidity rise 10,000 battles, and it is still far away from the goal. Jian Wushuang, who had no clue about the starry sky, once again landed in the towering forest to observe the giant man. When the turbid air came again, the giant didn't get up this time, but with a random attack, the turbid air rose to the height of 10,000 battles. This scene shocked Jian Wushuang a bit. I can't help feeling, is this giant still a rare genius? He couldn't help but was going to accept disciples, but when he thought about his situation, what is the difference between him and the giant now is that he is trapped in a cage, but the size is different. After the turbid air rose 10,000 battles, the giant in the tree cave was not taking action, but continued to comprehend. This guy has changed a lot of his personality, and he can actually hold back his full strength. In the past, the giant always got tired to get down before stopping, but now it is just an axe, not even a tree hole. The principle of the simple nature of the Great Road, the giant has already understood a little bit. At this time, he is not only comprehending the lines on the axe, but also using the axe to create his own techniques. The giant himself didn't know, where did he begin to transform, maybe because of this axe, maybe it was his heart. UU reading www.ukanshu.com. His original intention from birth may be to solve the turbidity. Not only did he think of this, even Jian Wushuang had seen the operation of the entire star through space transformation, and discovered the secret. But the giant didn't care about these things. He faced his own mind and was born to resist the turbid air, so he kept fighting. In the following years, every time the turbid air sinks, it is split by the giant in the tree cave at will, from the first 10,000 battles to the later 1,000,000 battles. On this day, the turbid air sank again, and the giant finally walked out of the tree hole, wearing messy long hair. Facing the muddy air, his expression was calm. Lips moved slightly, not yelling, but faintly said, "One." I don't know when he actually learned to speak, which surprised Jian Wushuang. Immediately after he spoke, the axe swung out lightly, but it was able to tear the space apart. Although this was the space of this star, with such strength, Jian Wushuang was still shocked. The axe that tore through the space slashed across the sky, and the turbid air collapsed, rising to 3.6 million battles with one axe. Following the second axe, the turbid air rose to 9.6 million battles. 11th. Every time he swings the axe, his voice is high, and the 11th axe cleaves, and the turbidity rises to 100 million battles. Jian Wushuang knew he could do it, but he didn't expect it to be so fast. After the turbid chi rose to 100 million battles, it was as expected, and gradually stabilized, not sinking. But the giant below frowned slightly, looking at the turbid air, although he knew that the turbid air was not sinking and the world would always be bright, but he didn't want that. What he wants is freedom. He will completely disperse the muddy air and rush out of the cage. Chapter 51:19. Wn Dao Jian Zun. The burst into the sky made the whole star tremble. Giants are like gods and demons left over from the desolate ancient times. The original thick muddy air has faded a lot, but the height of billions of feet has reached its limit, making it impossible to hide, and can only resist the giant axe. The brightness of the heavens and the earth made the giant grin, and his eyes became clearer, losing the turbid air he once had. However, if the turbid air does not dissipate for a day, he will not stop. He and the turbid air can stay in this star only. This fate seems to have accompanied him since his birth. Cool. The giant waved his sturdy arms again, and his body was also undergoing transformation at this moment. A light yellow luster slowly appeared on his chest, and a powerful force was gathered in his body. 14th. The roar just sounded, and a huge shadow of axe raised the forest of the group to the ground, turning countless towering giant trees into dust. The shadow of the axe rushed through the towering forest and flew into the sky without stopping, like a real dragon, roaring into the clouds. Crackling. Within the turbid air, the thunder flickered, and after the axe was held on, the turbid air faded again, and now the turbid air has become very transparent. Looking up at the sky on the ground, you can see a few stars faintly. This feeling made the giant very excited. His body trembled fiercely, and his exhaustion broke out at this moment. The pale gold on his chest began to explode, and the golden lines spread to the giant's face, and the lines on the neck were like cracks. General. The original endless power of Shen Huang had become exhausted after that axe. Jian Wushuang's figure was ethereal, staring at it all from a distance. He could see that the giant had run out of oil and the lamp had dried up. In fact, the 11th axe had already made the turbid air unable to sink any more, but the giant had already gone to the point where he had spared his life in order to completely break the cage. This made him a little puzzled, just like Shen Yi and the others. What are these people for? The ancient times of Darciu was so glorious that 5 mighty men coexisted, shocking hundreds of millions of heavens and overwhelming an era. But Zhen Wuyang shattered the glorious Wangu era. In order to unify the Daci domain, he did not know how many Dayan immortals who were as dazzling as the sun and the moon were killed in the great wilderness. Destroying the Wangu era that is now aspirational, Zhen Wuyang is to unify the big division domain, control the entire division domain, and let himself take that step. This is his purpose. What is the purpose of Shen Yi? Why didn't the 5 mighty men of the ancient times take that step? At this moment, Jian Wushuang was a little panicked. He somewhat understood. The Tao of Zhen Wuyang controls the Daci domain, so it can kill so many Dayan immortals who look forward to the ancient times. The establishment of the heavenly court has completely stabilized the Tao of Zhen Wuyang, and he is invincible in the Great Division. No one can contend with him. Even if the resurrected person exists, he is not afraid. He was killed by him in the Wangu era. What if he is revived? On his chassis, he is still not his opponent. However, the emperors of Wangu era can only be regarded as entering the emperor realm for the first time, and they have not mastered the complete emperor avenue. Just like Jian Wushuang today, although he realized the Jidao, he couldn't control it. It's just a little bit different. He didn't master the Jidao and was trapped in this starry sky. The emperor of Wangu era was trapped in the big division domain. The difference between Dao and Dao is very different. I don't know how many universes were born in this starry sky, and these universes contain countless domains. Daci is nothing but dust. This is Jidao, integrating the entire starry sky. If the ultimate kendo is the pinnacle of the world of swords, then the ultimate kendo is the highest rule above and below the stars. Zhen Wuyang's Dao is the pinnacle of the great Siyu. If he wants to go further, one is to master another domain, and the other is to realize the cosmic Tao and master the entire universe. Of course, this is the most impractical. It is so difficult to realize the Tao of emperors, and to realize a talent that needs to be amazing forever. As for the Tao of the universe, don't think about it. According to Jian Wushuang's current feelings, only a few of the universes embedded in the starry sky are controlled by people, while there are countless universes in the starry sky. According to his causal induction, no one controls the universe in which the distant Great Division is located. Jian Wushuang learned a lot from the giant man, such as the hot energy in the giant's chest, which is the most dazzling star in the sky. The light golden lines are the long rivers of time and space. There are several light golden rivers on the starry sky. These rivers are formed by countless universes. Among them, there are 9 broadest ones, and 99 ones with smaller ones, totaling 108. Article. Territory, universe, time and space, starry sky. Jian Wushuang felt the structure of this space, and the law of space expanded at an extremely fast speed, reaching the peak of Yangxian, which began to break at this moment. He in the starry sky began to break through, and the giant on the earth also began to break through. Ukanshu. The two seemed to have a certain connection, and they both broke through themselves at this moment together. One is the first life bred in a star, and the other is the first to realize the ultimate path in the entire starry sky. The giant squatting in the forest holding the axe's arm cracked into secret texts, and his body's strength was constantly rising at this moment. The power in the body was extremely hot, and the breathing in his nostrils was like a torch. The endless burning power made him burst into golden light, which penetrated the cracks in his body, shining all around. Although the pain was extremely painful, the hot energy was also repairing the cracks in his body. At this moment, the giant only felt extremely dry in his mouth. He stood up embarrassedly and began to run wildly. Rush out of the ruins of the towering forest and rush to the largest river on the star. On the stars. Jian Wushuang's breakthrough was a lot easier than that of the giant. His physique was originally his unique and special life form in the universe. As for Dian Immortal's extreme Tao, he had already realized it during the Great Wilderness, but he had been unable to master the complete extreme Tao. At this time, his breakthrough has increased the probability of him mastering the complete path. Dian Immortal's Yang power rotates in his body, and his extremely honest power makes him directly promoted to rank 3 Dian Immortal. The power in the body is endless, comparable to the 9th rank, plus his ultimate swordsmanship, enough to match the 9th rank. This is not even the Ji Dao that he has not yet controlled. If he truly masters the Ji Dao, then he will become the top existence in Dian Immortal. Except for the perfect existence in the 9 ranks Dian Immortal, he will be invincible. The palm of his hand was vacant, and the powerful force made the stars tremble. Unfortunately, I still haven't mastered the complete Ji Dao, and I still can't get out. I really envy that stupid man. Chapter 51:20. Wan Dao Jian Zun, Rumble. The giant smashed the earth out of a big hole without a single foot. His speed was very fast. Each step spanned 1,000,000 battles. These big holes can form lakes and valleys. Finally, when he exhausted his last strength, he finally fell to the edge of the river bank. Looking at the surging river, the giant reached out his hand and took the clear river water and drank. The water slipped from his mouth into his abdomen, but it was a drop in the bucket, and the hot power still tortured him. However, this drool made him breathe a sigh of relief. He got a little strength to straighten up, and jumped into the river, swallowing the water. The river almost surrounds this star, and there are countless tributaries. Although the river was almost wireless, it could not stop the swallowing of giants. The river with its tributaries dried up, and finally the whole river was almost dry and leaked out of the riverbed cool. Drinking the entire river water will see a low level, and the giant can be considered to have recovered most of his strength, and the energy in the body can be absorbed cleanly. Straighten up, the bark on his body had already been scattered, and only a few leaves were left to cover his lower body. His body is already covered with golden lines, and all cracks have been repaired by the golden lines. Not only has his strength returned to its peak, it has also taken a step forward. Jian Wushuang, who slipped from the void, stood on the mountain in the distance, sensing the strength of the giant. This star, or the power distinction of this universe, is still very different from the Daisy region where it is located. For example, a giant is born with a pure sun, but has the body of a chaotic and demon. After absorbing the power of the axe, Jian Wushuang couldn't even see the strength of the giant. In the realm, giants are born with chaos and are bestowed by the highest rules, but they are far from the rulers. Really want to make a general idea, according to Jian Wushuang's guess, it should be the quasi-saint stage. With such strength, he can be regarded as a strong person in the big division domain, but in the starry sky, even the air is not as good. If you want to travel the universe, you have to be at the Dian Immortal level at least to walk across the starry sky. With Dian Immortal's speed, you can cross the adjacent realm, just like those monks who came to Daisy region. If you want to cross the universe, you must have the strength of the Emperor. The Emperor who controls the realm will not easily leave the lair. Only those emperors who have not controlled the realm will continue to cross the realm, and even walk out of the original universe. Other universes look for realms that no one controls and take that step. Zhen Huayang's luck is considered good, the Daisy domain is contended by 5 emperors, and he controls the Daisy domain with the posture of the posterity. This caused the resurrected corpses to scold Zhen Huayang. Those Dian Immortals had long regarded Darciu as their own, and only looked forward to the 5 emperors of ancient times, but did not recognize Zhen Huayang at all, thinking that he was an exclusive Daisy. The villain of the domain. In fact, these Dian Immortals were wrong, and the 5 emperors were wrong. Heaven is already ruthless. How could he tolerate so many emperors? One person must control the big division domain. Not only did their respective divisions not increase their strength, but they would let them the realm has fallen. There are also many emperors in the adjacent world of Tongtian Buddhism, but their world is different from Dacu. The world of Tongtian Buddhism has 3,000 big worlds and hundreds of millions of small worlds. The Tongtian Buddha controlled the widest heaven realm among the 3,000 great worlds, and only then did the Tongtian Buddha realm exist. Many of the remaining great worlds are not weaker than the Great Siyu, and some are stronger than the Big Siyu. Naturally, these worlds will not be empty, and they are also controlled by many emperors, but there are still more than half of them left. The heavenly Buddha controls the heavens, and the 3,000 worlds are naturally respected by him, collectively referred to as the heavenly Buddha realms. In fact, the 3,000 worlds are in chaos, and even if the heavenly Buddhas control the heavens, they cannot suppress all emperors. It's just that he has been resisting the external emperors and preventing them from controlling the 3,000 great worlds, so that the emperors who control the great world will praise him. These things were calculated by Zhen Wushuang based on the things in the body-mind tree, and their accuracy remains to be verified. If he could get out from here, he still wanted to go to the world of Tongtian Buddhism. After all, for his causal killings, he still needs to go to the Buddhist realm. Whether he can go out now can only depend on how much he can understand from the giant. Zhen Wushuang standing on the top of the mountain, his eyes glistened. Standing on the riverbed, the giant seemed to feel his gaze. It wasn't that the giant's induction was strong, but Zhen Wushuang didn't cover himself at all. The giant turned his head and glanced at him, a lot of puzzlement in his determined eyes. From the time he was born, he had thought in his heart to drive away the turbid air that once engulfed him, and this thought was immortal. But the feeling that Zhen Wushuang gave him seemed to be much stronger than the muddy air, but he never felt any suppressing power from Zhen Wushuang. This also made him not too hostile to Zhen Wushuang. At most he just wanted to ravage the opponent, but his strength was not enough. Even now his strength has entered a new level, he still can't see through Zhen Wushuang. As for the turbidity, his eyes were cold, looking at the sky. The 14 axes in the front were realized by him on the pattern of the axe. The pattern on the axe is nothing but Zhen Wushuang instilling some power containing the ultimate mark at will. Has been able to understand for so many years. Comprehending the 14 axe is already amazing. However, when comprehending the lines of the axe, the giant himself had a lot of insights into the secret method of the axe, and he had always had an axe in his heart that was rehearsing and never used it. This type of axe is not as exquisite as the previous 14 axes, but it is simple and pure, as if it was born out of chaos just like him. 15th. The lines on the giant's body radiated golden light, and his thick dark arms danced lightly, and then the power in his body ran to the extreme. With the final axe, he broke the boat and exhausted all his energy to perfect the power of this axe. Breaking through the muddy air, like his heart demon, has been entwining him, just like Zhen Wushuang's causal killing. He was just born in the early stage, and he didn't deal with the turbid qi too strongly, but now his strength has reached, his mentality has naturally undergone earth-shaking changes, he is more and more eager to break the turbid qi, he is like a devil, obsessed with enlightenment axe fa, now it has created his own axe. The golden light exploded from the giant's body. He shouted angrily and used all his strength to cast his own axe, which was called Kaitian. The giant's explosion made everything around him blurred. This is the fluctuation of space. Standing in the distance, Zhen Wushuang couldn't bear the complete destruction of this land, stabilized the space, and stared at the desperate giant in a daze. In the face of such power, the turbid air in the sky condensed the turbid air that envelops the stars, forming a huge storm, and fought the giant head-on. The 15th axe opening the sky burst out from the earth. The shadow of the axe is simple, like a savage splitting at will, but the power contained in it is enough to destroy the entire star. Chapter 51-21. Wn Dao Zhen Zun, the trembling power swept across the world. The hurricane formed by the turbid gas turns into a thick yellow shield. This shield is 1,000,000 wars thick. It condenses all the turbid gas. If it is blocked, it can transform the spirit and become the heavenly path of the entire star. If he couldn't help it, he disappeared completely. The huge shadow of axe rushed into the sky, without fear of any existence. The yellow shield is like thin paper in front of it. The collision between the two did not start any turbulence, and the shadow of the axe unilaterally crushed it, directly breaking the yellow shield condensed by the turbid air. ZZ. The last layer of turbid air, even though it hasn't changed its spirit, at this moment, facing the shadow of the axe, it actually began to tremble. The Aegis that tried its best to condense couldn't resist, it couldn't help it, after all, he hadn't transformed the spirit. An unwilling noise came from the muddy air, and Jian Wushuang's eyes were startled. Both the axe technique and the muddy air resonated with him. In this battle, the giant won. Both have the same destiny. One can create his own axe technique by comprehending the secret method and break the cage. Jian Wushuang admires him a little. Axe shadow completely penetrated the turbid air, cutting open the void of the outside world, until it dissipated hundreds of thousands of miles away. This axe. Shocking, weeping ghosts. Jian Wushuang remembered everything he saw in his mind, then closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the top of the mountain. The cause and effect is so wonderful, he indirectly helped the giant, and then the giant fed him back. The moment Jian Wushuang sat down cross-legged, the sky completely changed. From above the star, there is no more turbidity, and some is a bright starry sky. The giant looked at all of this, the corners of his eyes were moist, he didn't know why the corners of his eyes were moist, maybe this was instinct. All the lines on his body were broken, and he didn't care. The next day, he lived on the mountain adjacent to Jian Wushuang. He created his own words and wrote down his own things. He also learned to build a house, built a simple wooden house on the mountainside, and watched the sunset every day. Before he knew it, he felt the loss of his body and his figure became much smaller. As his figure gradually dissipated, other life appeared on the star. There are birds and beasts in the forest, and huge beasts in the lake. Although these beings are not as strong as him, they are not weak. They gradually began to huddle and fight. And the giant watched like this until his body was completely dissipated in this earth. The giant dissipated in the heavens and the earth, but his power was bestowed on those powerful giants. Not only the giant beasts, tens of thousands of races were born on the planet in the following 10,000 years, they inherited the power of giants, and began to comprehend the way of the giant incarnation. Hundreds of millions of years later, this planet was ruled by a human monk who had amazed the ancient 10,000 races, with a sharp axe, dominated the entire planet. The holy land of human race, East Holy Mountain. Patriarch, I succeeded. In the sacrificial hall of the sacred mountain, a big man with disheveled hair, carrying an axe on his back, knelt under the idol and wept with joy. The human race emerged millions of years ago. At that time, it was still an ordinary ethnic group. Because of the power of the clan leader, the human race led the human race to the peak race, and they were called the 5 peak races together with the monster, god, ghost, and dragon race. The big man will never forget the stalwart body of the clan leader, but after World War I, the clan leader fell and entrusted the human race to him before his death. The human race without the clan leader was squeezed out of the peak race group, and the territory shrank in a large area. Fortunately at that time, he was strong enough to stabilize the major ethnic groups. Over the years, he has taken the courage, because there is only one strong man in the race, so he dare not take risks, and can only take control of the race. In the endless years, he was full of guilt, let down the expectations of the clan owner, did not lead the human race to prosperity, but began to decline. Finally, after a terrifying battle, he defended the race and got a treasure. This treasure fits him perfectly. He realized that the treasure created a powerful secret method, faced the ancient and powerful race, and led the human race to the peak step by step. The ancient tribes all surrendered. The strongest man who defeated the ancient races knelt and wept bitterly at this time. If the strong men of other races learn about it, he will definitely drop his jaw. Although the strength of the big man has surpassed the clan leader of the year, he did not care at all. In his heart, the clan leader is like a father and a teacher, and he is an elder that he will respect all his life. East Holy Mountain, on the top of the mountain. You people have deep feelings for you. This kid, the pressure is too much, just let it go. On the top of the mountain, the two sat opposite each other, one old and the other young. Stressed. You are blaming me. Jian Wushuang chuckled lightly, picked up his teacup, and took a sip of tea. The old man shook his head and said with a smile, Master, How dare you to blame you? Without you, my human race would have been destroyed in Dan Mountain. The old man recalled back then, Dan Mountain, which had not yet been renamed Eastern Holy Mountain. At that time, the human race was just the bottom of the 10,000 races, barely able to survive, and any ancient giant beast could destroy them. Jian Wushuang hurriedly waved his hand. Stop, you are not my apprentice. I was puzzled at that time, your hair was all white back then, and when you saw me this young man fell down and bowed. You are really thick-skinned. The old man also listened to a hippie smile. The master is so powerful, he must be an inexperienced person, and everything on the outside is imaginary. Maybe you are older than the Dragon King of the Dragon Clan, and a few heads don't count. Suffer. Haha, what you said is correct, that old Dragon King is indeed not as big as me. Jian Wushuang sipped his tea, his eyes were sad. After drinking the tea, the old man resumed it quickly. Fuzhu, I want to leave here. Jian Wushuang's sudden words shocked the old man. Why, the master is ready to travel to the world again. It just so happens that I am also a little bored here, so I will go with the master. Fuzhu, who followed Jian Wushuang and hid on the top of the mountain, knew that he often went down the mountain to travel to the various clans, but it had not been many years since he returned from his last tour. Jian Wushuang raised his head, a pair of pale golden eyes looked at Fuzhu, and said with a smile, yes, go to travel. But this time to travel should be a long, long time. As for you, you can go down the mountain and return to the ethnic group. The kid's potential has been fully stimulated. Now human race has no rivals anymore. Master. The old man wanted to go down the mountain a long time ago, especially when the human race was in distress, but Jian Wushuang would not let him appear at that time. He had already fallen in the human race, and Jian Wushuang saved him. After the human race was stable, he was on this mountain, following Jian Wushuang for millions of years. Now suddenly said that he can return to the race, his eyes flushed with excitement. Don't get too excited, I will leave tonight, but I have a wedding drink tonight. Jian Wushuang took out a short piece of wood from his sleeve and played it in his hand. Chapter 51-22. At night, the starry sky shines. At the foot of the Eastern Holy Mountain of human race, the largest city, Eastern Imperial City, the human race today is particularly lively, because the strongest human race Beishan Axe is getting married tonight, and the strongest of all races are invited to participate in this unparalleled feast. In the human palace, countless human races are busy preparing for the big wedding dinner after an hour. Wow! Look, it's the Saint of the Bailings. A human teenager screamed when he saw the Saint of the Bailings wrapped in snow clothes. Snapped. The old man next to the young man opened his anger, slapped the young man on the head, and said in a low voice, "Be quiet, she is a true spirit powerhouse, she can be blown to death in one breath." After the old man taught the young man, he lost a smile at the Bailing Saint, and then led the young man towards the palace. The sage of the Bailing tribe with only 2 maids by her side. Her status is extremely noble, and she is comparable to the patriarch in the top class of the Brawn tribe. Even the strong of the Pinnacle tribe is very polite when they see her, but now she is a human race. The hairy boys dare to make a loud noise in front of her. The human race is very powerful and irreversible. This is what the patriarch told her when she came. Glancing at the large array that contains the heavens, the sage of the Bailing tribe squeezed a smile on her face and walked towards the palace. With the powerful people of all ethnic groups taking in one after another, the big wedding feast is about to begin. In the palace of the people, now 70% of the powerful people from the 10,000 races are gathered, the ancestor dragon of the Dragon Clan, and the Ghost King of the Ghost Clan. They chat with the surrounding powerhouses and wait for the feast. Larolong, I have to congratulate you on this feast. Ghost King Yin and Yang held up the wine glass strangely, and gestured towards Zulong. Zulong, wearing a broad blue robe, had a strong smile on his face, and he knowingly asked, "Old White Ghost, today is Dongjun's wedding. Congratulations to me." Huh. You don't know how to pretend to be confused. Who doesn't know that Dongjun's Taoist companion has the blood of your Dragon Clan? According to your seniority, you can still be regarded as Dongjun's elder. The words of the King of Ghosts instantly attracted the onlookers of a few powerful people from the pinnacle race. Seeing that Zhu Long didn't refute, they all leaked envy. Dong Jun broke through to become the strongest, and he had reached an unthinkable point. If he did it, everyone present would not be his opponent. And just a few days ago, the once mysterious top tribe ancient gods were completely destroyed. The rumor was destroyed by Dong Jun himself, leaving no trace of blood. This shocked all the big clans. They understood that the human race was already unstoppable, and the strength of Dong Jun was not something they could contend. Now that the Zulong, who has lived for so many years, has built up this relationship with Dong Jun, I am afraid that in the future, the position of the Dragon Clan in the Pinnacle Group will become more and more stable. Everyone naturally flattered a wave of Zulong, but Zulong had lived for so many years without knowing that this was a homage, and he waved his hands quickly. Everyone, strength is respected. Although my dragon daughter is married into the human race, I dare not call myself an elder in front of Dong Jun, and I met Dong Jun very early, and I felt that Dong Jun was in love with the ancients, and I had long been compared with my peers. Up. The corner of the Ghost King's mouth is upturned. He has been fighting with Zulong for hundreds of millions of years. Now Zulong gets cheap and sells strangers. It makes him extremely annoyed and scolds the saints in the clan for trash. Why such a good thing, he can't meet. Brother Zulong, I can't say that. I heard that Dong Jun respects Dongsheng Fuzhu very much, and has always regarded himself as a junior. Even the destruction of the ancient gods was calculated by the ancient gods because of the war. On that, don't you regard Dongsheng as your elder? I'm equal to Dong Jun. Naturally, I have to regard Dongsheng as my elder. Don't say anything. I admired Dongsheng a million years ago. Zhu Long sneered. He knew it was the Ghost King who was picking up the matter. But how many years have passed since the Eastern Saint capital has fallen? What can he do if he is an elder? After today, even if he is on Dongjun's ship, he will naturally have a chance to find it back. Place. The few strong men of the pinnacle race sitting above, with a solid smile on their faces, they can understand why this ancestral dragon can survive from the ancient era because of its thick skin. Seeing that he was so shameless, the King of Ghosts was not asking himself for being boring, and he snorted and ignored him. Boom, boom, boom. In front of the palace, a row of huge red drums rang, just in time. With a sharp sound, Dong Jun waved his hand to tear the void, and took his wife's hand into the palace slowly. The strong men of all races got up one after another. Congratulations, Dong Jun. Congratulations, Lord Dong Jun. Congratulations, brother. Congratulations, brother. It's so spectacular. Dong Jun turned his head and glanced at his wife beside him, and he also leaked a smile. At this time, he was no longer like a savage, and he looked handsome and handsome. Step by step to the top of the hall, then turned around and bowed. Today's big wedding. I'm very happy that you can participate regardless of your previous complaint. Although the manner is polite, Ku Dongjun's domineering also surprised the people of His Royal Highness, but they all laughed and raised their glasses. Just as Dong Jun was holding his wife's hand and turning around, a shadow flashed by, and a young man appeared on the empty theme. The young man wore a black robe, long hair and shawls, and his eyes were fascinating. The person here is Jian Wushuang. This is the first time for hundreds of millions of years that he has appeared in front of these strong people with his true body. That time the Salvation Candle was just a law clone. After all, these so-called strong people are too weak and don't need a real body at all, even if they are law clones. Both have the strength of Dian Immortal, a random blow can destroy countless planets. His appearance really shocked many people. Today was Dongjun's big wedding, and they didn't expect that someone would dare to come to the scene. The seat of Jian Wushuang was deliberately vacated by Dong Jun. On the wall above the main seat, there was still a portrait of Dongsheng Fuzhu. That position represented the ancestor of the family, and the meaning was different from imagination. Because when he appeared, it didn't cause any fluctuations in power, and outsiders couldn't see his strength at all. Many people sitting below were waiting for the good show. This is the first one who dares to go to the human base camp to find something. How can the human race come forward without an elder in such a big feast? Jian Wushuang picked up the hip flask and took a bite, and then said, "Yes, Fu Zhu." A white-haired old man appeared out of thin air, causing the surrounding void to vibrate. Although his strength was suppressed, when the void was torn apart, it still leaked a powerful pressure, making everyone present tremble. Many people know the face of the people here. Although he is not as famous as Dongjun today, he was an extremely strong man 1,000,000 years ago, and he brought the human race to prosperity. It's Fu Zhu, has not dead. Chapter 51-23. Everyone below was shocked. And Fu Zhu's current strength is stronger than Dongjun. This made them terrified. The original human race remained at the end of the pinnacle race group, and then fell down and fell directly to the top level. Then Dongjun exploded, recasting the glory of human beings again, and became the pinnacle race group. At this time, the two powerhouses who led the human race to the peak race actually stood on the hall at the same time. Dongjun's eyes were red when he saw the former Fu Zhu, who was like a father and a teacher. "Clan ancestor, is that you?" He couldn't believe it at this moment, but fortunately the breath on Fu Zhu was very familiar. At this time Fu Zhu smiled and turned his head, then turned to look at Dongjun. "These years, you have suffered. The feelings of the two cannot be expressed in words." Dongjun shook his head, tears fell from his cheeks, and he trembled. Fortunately, he did not humiliate his life. He did not live up to the expectations of his ancestors. At this moment, he did not have the demeanor of the first strong man at all, directly kneeling on his knees, and respectfully said, "Congratulations to the ancestors to return to the human race. The human race is happy. Human race is on the go." Many human race powerhouses below reacted. After all, millions of years ago, they had not yet grown up. They did not know much about this former ancestor. Most of them had seen him in the hall of the holy mountain. Carving. "Haha, get up. Today is your big wedding." Fu Zhu looked at Dongjun with satisfaction. This descendant of the human race led the human race to rise from the time of crisis and recast the glory of the ancient times. He was very satisfied, and his master Jian Wushuang also had a special preference for Dongjun. "Yes, clan ancestor." Dongjun got up, and quickly pulled his wife beside him. "Longer, see the clan ancestor." Linglong in a red dress, with bright eyes shining, and her exquisite facial features are particularly stunning. After hearing her husband's words, she bowed quickly. "Longer, meet the ancestor." With a deep smile on Fu Zhu's face, he nodded quickly. "Good, good, good. Clan ancestor, this is." Dongjun also had guesses in his heart, but he still couldn't believe it. Now his strength is extremely strong, and he even has the confidence to sweep the entire planet alone, but he can't see through the young man sitting in the main seat, and his clan ancestor actually calls him a master. "This one is the great benefactor of my human race and my master." Fu Zhu's words surprised everyone. "Master? That young man is actually the master of Fu Zhu. Do you still remember that secret realm and your great axe were all given to you by the master?" Jian Wushuang didn't care about Fu Zhu, but got up and looked at Dongjun, and said, "There is no need to thank me, that axe belongs to you." "It belongs to me." Dongjun was a little confused. The people below were shocked and their jaws were about to drop, and Dongjun was so strong now that it was a gift from the young man. "Yes, you belong to you. You are like an old person I know. Now that you have inherited his mantle, I should leave." Dongjun was a little puzzled, and asked, "Is the old man the ancestor of my human race?" After hearing Dongjun's words, Jian Wushuang glanced at the people around him, and said lightly, "Forget it." The Fu Zhu that followed Jian Wushuang for millions of years leaked and was interrupted when he wanted to ask questions. "Well, I'm drinking the wedding wine, it's time to go." As soon as Jian Wushuang's voice fell, he disappeared from the main hall, leaving only the people who were stunned on the spot. "I didn't even feel the fluctuation of the space. How did he leave here?" "Master," Fu Zhu murmured. After following Jian Wushuang for millions of years, he knew the power of master, but at best guessed that master might be from another planet, comforting him in his heart, "We should still see each other." They never thought that Jian Wushuang did not belong to this starry sky at all, or that this starry sky belonged to Jian Wushuang. Beyond the stars. Jian Wushuang looks back. After hundreds of millions of years of silence, his state of mind has already changed, and now he has somewhat forgotten all the things he used to be in Darciu. But he couldn't forget the battlefield in his mind. A move in my heart, a thought of the universe. Ultimate Kendo, the fifth layer heart sword universe. As early as 1,000,000 years ago, he truly mastered the extreme way. This starry sky completely belonged to him at this time. The long river of time and space, billions of universes, and countless realms are all embedded in his avenue. One thought universe on the first level of Jidao. On the battlefield of bones, he actually realized his mental strength, and the collision of his mental strength with the ultimate sword made him touch the extreme. A thought at that time made him come to this starry sky, and it was time to go back now. Jian Wushuang glanced at the starry sky for the last time, and then all thoughts were united. The turbulence of heart power was different from Yanli, which was even more incredible than Yanli. An ordinary sword can hurt the body. The sword that contains Tao can destroy the soul. And a sword with mental power can directly point to the heart. Even if the body and soul are intact, it will cause sudden changes in the heart, and the battlefield is changing rapidly. Once the mood is unstable, it is easy to become a breakthrough, and it is not an exaggeration to fall on the spot. Cool. After all thoughts were united, Jian Wushuang's figure completely disappeared from the starry sky, leaving no breath. After hundreds of thousands of years, tens of thousands of planets under the starry sky collided. A war that lasted for hundreds of millions of years broke the calm of the starry sky. A man with a giant axe stood out from the crowd. Achieved the position of the great emperor. After a brilliant era, an emperor came from outside the starry sky to open up wasteland, created a big world, included countless planets, and became a hegemon. But these are all things to do. Now Jian Wushuang has returned to that battlefield. Great wasteland, outside the boundary. An army of corpses was all over the void, and bells rang from the ancient bronze hall. Jiyu Yuan held a spear in one hand, pinched the head of the white monk's head in the other, took one step and came to Qianhei's side. These bald donkeys are really boring, Jiyu Yuan said, directly squeezing the Beijing monk in his hand. The corner of the little novice monk on the edge of the battlefield in the distance trembled, and he could feel that the masters had fallen, but he did not dare to open his eyes and look. The armor of the corpses around has been surrounded, but Jian Wushuang at this time still closed his eyes tightly. Qianhe and Jiyu Yuan took advantage of this little time to take another step, and they were beyond Jian Wushuang's 10,000 battles. This person has the breath of real Wuyang, I will kill him, and the little bald donkey will be handed over to you. Jiyu Yuan didn't talk about it at all. Even if Ganhe was stronger than him in strength, he didn't care. In the age of Wangu, he followed the Lord and fought in all directions. He was not the strongest among the 9 ranks Dayan immortals, but he was the craziest. In addition to the Lord, only the Dayan immortal who had asked Jor to lead and a few other great perfection powers could suppress him. Except for these people, even if Zhen Wuyang came, he would dare to go up and fight. With a spear in his hand, Jiyu Yuan rushed forward before he could talk. Rebel, die. Chapter 51-24. The sound of a spear tearing through the void is like the collision of thunder. Countless flashes of pitch-black lightning circled the spear and Jiyu Yuan, and the speed reached Jian Wushuang's eyebrows in an instant. The little novice monk standing beside Jian Wushuang suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Jiyu Yuan, who was like a demon god. He didn't have any fear in his heart. He could only sigh that he was not strong enough. He has cultivated for 30 million years and his strength has become immortal. The peak has not been reached, let alone Jiyu Yuan. Even if any corpse has the strength of Dayan immortal, he is a burden on this battlefield and can't help. The unwillingness and anger in the heart made the little novice monk's eyes flushed. Now that Jiyu Yuan strikes, the good men around him will also fall. His was originally meant to transform and become immortal, but now it has become a burden, relying on the protection of others. Live in front of you till now. He really didn't understand. They were clearly here to save the immortals and do good deeds. Why did these corpses attack them? Why did the masters suddenly fall? It was obvious that they had passed through the extremely dangerous wilderness. Fall here. At this moment, he was full of doubts, but powerless, he could only shout angrily, "I let you stop." The little novice shed tears at the moment. His hands were not folded, his small body stood in front of Jian Wushuang, glaring at Ji Yuan. It was like a spear that thunder and lightning moved, but it really stopped. The little novice monk was also stunned. He looked at Ji Yuan's surprised eyes, and took a step back unconsciously. When he met Jian Wushuang behind him, he touched his bald head with one palm. "I promised your master that I will take you away. I don't know when. Jian Wushuang has already returned. The hundreds of millions of years outside the starry sky are just a moment, thanks to the Bodhisattva tree." At this moment, countless memories flooded into his mind, and he also understood that it turned out that it was the white pure monk who summoned the immeasurable Buddha and sent this piece of body-heart tree. And those monk heads have all fallen on this starry sky now. Jian Wushuang, whose mood has already transformed, has no color on his face. Looking down at the little novice monk, he nodded at him. "Good man, don't care about me, I'm just a burden, leave me alone, you still have hope to escape." The little novice looked at Jian Wushuang. He didn't want to drag Jian Wushuang anymore. The master fell into this void, and he didn't want to leave. Jian Wushuang, with a calm complexion, leaked a smile. "Just hold my arm, close your eyes and soon we can rush out." Now he has broken through the realm of Yangxian and became the three-turn Great Yangxian. In the hundreds of millions of years in the starry sky, he created the fifth level of the ultimate kendo, and completely controlled the extreme road. Nowadays, even if he has the confidence to escape from the Dzogchen on the ninth revolution, of course, if the resurrected existence comes to deal with him personally, there is not much hope. However, according to his feelings, that existence should not have fully recovered. Although the blue ancient temple was born, the corpses in the temple obviously cannot be dispatched at will. His eyes condensed, his aura swept around. The Wushuang divine sword pointed directly at Ji Yuan's thunder spear. The collision between the two did not cause any power fluctuations, but Ji Yuan's spear was the main gear. This is the terrible mental strength, fighting invisible. What power is this? Under the influence of his heart strength, his body couldn't help shaking, and the spear in his hand fell. Countless corpse armors also stopped. Standing in the void in the distance, Ganhe looked strange, and hurriedly exclaimed, "Go, idiot." But she herself rushed over. Unexpectedly, you, a Tier 3 Dian immortal, can actually master this power. The fit body was like a ghost, breaking the knife in her hand, splitting countless after-images one after another, but she herself was not close to Jian Wushuang. Immediately afterwards, she sent a letter to the Qingjia leader who guarded the corpse on the ancient land. "The enemy is weird. Come and support me quickly so as not to disturb my lord." At the desolately white ruins of the ancient land, in the huge deep pit, countless corpses continued to recover and crawled out of the pit. The Qingjia commander held the giant blade in his hand and turned his head to look at the void battlefield. "Yudu, Yu Cheng, since you two are resurrected, then guard my lord here, and I will go and kill Zhen Wayang's running dog." The Qingjia all stood up slowly. His body was burly, and his battle armor was covered with dark bloodstains, which were left in the fight in the ancient age. If Ji Yuan is a lunatic, and he is warlike, then the leader of Qingjia is a cold-blooded butcher. He can sit still for 10,000 years or slaughter 10,000 immortals. He is the Dian immortal of the ninth revolution of the famous Xiong Bingyun in ancient times. Leader Pang, rest assured, this place can be handed over to my brothers. When the Rockshaw Temple is born, the big plan is irreversible, and no one can stop us anymore. Yudu and Yu Cheng are the guardians of the Rakshasa Temple, and the two great protagonists of the Lord, both of them are in the 9th rank. This is the horror of the emperor-level power. If it is placed in an ordinary domain, there are no emperors in some eras, and there are only 2 or 3 Dian immortals of the 9th rank consummation level in each era. It is conceivable that the former Dasiu was so powerful. No wonder those Daanxians often said, "Hopes how brilliant the ancient times." 5 emperors coexist, and there are dozens of Dian immortals who have completed the 9th revolution, and Dian immortals are countless. It has been so long since that battle, and Dacu has not been able to regain its former glory. Xiong Bingyun's eyes were calm and he took a step directly to the battlefield. At this time, Qianhe was dragging Jian Wushuang as much as possible, but Jiyu Yuan's mood fell by more than half of his strength, but he still did not let go, biting Jian Wushuang firmly. Dragging him could not move at all. Here is another person, and I don't know, it was the emperor who has recovered, so I won't be here to welcome him. Jian Wushuang's sword aura suddenly skyrocketed, and a faint black and yellow aura emanated from all over his body. This is the energy produced at the beginning of the universe. Now the universe is full of vitality, and the black and yellow aura has long since disappeared, but he has mastered the complete path, let alone it is the original universe, and even the entire starry sky belongs to him. As soon as the Shenhuang Qi appeared, Qianhe felt bad at the moment, and hurriedly dodged the sword, but a lot of Shenhuang Qi still got on the armor of her shoulders. The powerful Shenhuang Qi eroded her whole body in an instant, but fortunately, it was not contaminated by a lot, and it would not kill her. Jiyu Yuan, who is a lunatic, didn't have such good luck, or that he was too stupid to avoid hiding, but forcibly took the sword. The air of Shenhuang is matched with mental strength. Jiyu Yuan's figure froze instantly. Xiong Bingyun, who had just stepped into the battlefield, had no time to rescue him. Kneel me down. Jian Wushuang's figure flashed, and his mighty mental strength eroded Jiyu Yuan in just an instant. Jiyu Yuan, with muddy eyes, actually knelt down tremblingly, and then respectfully shouted, "Master." Chapter 51-25. The proud Jiyu Yuan fell on his knees and his eyes were dull. Kneeling quietly in front of Jian Wushuang. This scene shocked Xiong Bingyun, who had arrived on the spot. Jiyu Yuan knew better than anyone about Jiyu Yuan's strength. In the Wangu era, he was a veteran 9-ranked Dian Immortal, but now he is enslaved by Yijian. Based on strength alone, he has the confidence to defeat Jiyu Yuan with a single move, but he can enslave the 9th-rank Dian Immortal, let alone him. Even the Emperor and the strong cannot do it at will. Unless it is the power of the legendary illusion practitioner, it can be done. Your Excellency is an illusionist. Why are you in my big division domain? Xiong Bingyun couldn't help but said, if the other party is really an illusion cultivator, then it should not be a person from the big division domain. Jian Wushuang stood proudly in the void, holding the divine sword upside down. His eyes were cold and his brows frowned. Why, did you open up this area? Although those monk heads died because of him, how could they give each other a good face at this time? But now he has the upper hand. However, that sword exhausted the accumulated Shenhuang Qi, and it took time to recover. Since the opponent was not in a hurry, he couldn't ask for it. Friends joked. The wild realm of this great division was created by our Lord. Dare to ask which of the 3,000 great worlds the Taoists belong to? Xiong Bingyun, who had been admiring the ancient times, also went to the world of Tongtian Buddhism, knowing where besides the monkhead, there are other practitioners, including the Dian Immortal who Dacu met. Jian Wushuang mobilized his heart, spreading the void with a trace. The most important thing for him now is to escape the siege. As long as he goes out, relying on his speed, he will be able to leave the void soon. After all, the skeleton army wants to protect the existence and resuscitation, and he refuses to be able to leave because he is too far away. You know a lot, but... Jian Wushuang held the opponent steady on his mouth, but his figure suddenly retreated. Just now, all his mental strength spread, and he discovered that there were other existences hidden in the void. Sure enough, when he just retreated, a glow flashed across, and a black-robed old man appeared in his place just now. Fortunately, when he retreated, he took control of Du Jiyu Yuan and retreated together. Jian Wushuang retreated to the distance, snorted coldly, and then ordered Jiyu Yuan to hold them. However, he was tearing the void, his figure kept flashing, and he took the little novice and fled towards the boundary of the skeleton army. Originally, those skeletal armors could not stop him, but now that his strength has risen, they are even less opponents. He didn't even need his sword, the endless sword energy scattered on his body crushed his bones. Yudu, this person is a bit weird, I will chase after Qianhe, you go back to guard the temple. Jejie, the black-robed old man made a weird voice and replied hoarsely, remember, don't miss the plan. Xiong Bingyun nodded. They have been deposited under the bones for hundreds of millions of years. Of course, He understands how important the old plan was. Those monk heads and Jian Wushuang are just ants. If they appear, they will do their best to destroy them, lest they discover the temple exist. When the plan was set, they didn't know how long they would recover. Now they have waited for hundreds of millions of years to return to this world. This is their only chance to recast the glory of the ancient era. It is our duty. There must be no difference in such major events. Ganghe, you go and stop Jiu Yuan, if necessary, cut him off. Although the ancient times are brilliant, there are countless celestial beings, but the ninth rank Dayan celestial being as a party overlord is still extremely rare, and it will not be abandoned until the critical moment. But now Jiu Yuan was unconscious and had been enslaved by Jian Wushuang. Even if he was rescued, he would not feel comfortable staying with him. As soon as the fit figure moved, he stopped Jiu Yuan, who was crazy. "You idiot, how dare you betray my lord, let me fall." Ganghe said that, but he was still a little shocked. The ninth rank Dayan said to give up and gave up, unavoidably a little bit sad. If she needs to sacrifice that day, will she end up like this too? Jian Wushuang, who was floating on the edge of the battlefield, was struggling to kill, but these corpse armors, like locusts, surrounded him, like iron tongs. No matter how much he kills, there are still countless corpse armors rushing up desperately. Now he could see it clearly. The ordinary corpse battle armor didn't have any consciousness, and only those battle armors comparable to the level of the 3rd or 6th rank Dayan Immortal had the consciousness of writing and knew how to avoid their edge. Although they would not take the initiative to die, the Dayan Immortal battle armor with the ranks 3 and 6 levels kept their distance and released countless black chains to form a simple large formation, blocking Jian Wushuang's path. Damn! Jian Wushuang couldn't help cursing. Turning his head to look to the rear, Xiong Bingyun's figure kept approaching, and once he was caught up, he wanted to rush out again. It would be as difficult as heaven. The 9th Revolution Dzogchen and the 9th Revolution are very different. Don't look at him enslaving Jiu Yuan with a single sword. He really wants to face this ice cloud. Without the aura of Shen Huang, he can't shake the 9th Revolution perfection level Dayan by his own mind. Sense. Now his mental strength can only deal with rank 6 Dayan Immortal, or the 9th rank Dayan Immortal with incomplete mood. Mental cultivator, you can't escape. If you go up and down, you can save your life. Jian Wushuang was also the sword aura of the 2 swords that contained the heart power surging through the void, directly beheading the rank 6 Dayan Immortal who was hiding behind the army. Those rank 6 Dayan Immortals were led by their heart strength, their eyes were dull, and they fell into the void in a daze. Do your spring and autumn dreams. The chain's sense of restraint fell instantly after the 6 rank Dayan Immortals fell. Jian Wushuang also took advantage of this little time to make up for the vacancy, a real outbreak. For hundreds of millions of years in the world of the heart, he has mastered the complete path, and the transformation of strength is not just an increase in the level of mental strength. One thought. Tick, tick. The sound of raindrops resounded in the void for a moment. The sound was quiet, but it fell into the ears like thunder. The little novice monk suddenly opened his eyes at this moment. He was too familiar with the voice just now. This is the sound of the Buddha Tongtian beating the bowl. His status in the world of the Buddha is also very high. The master took him to the Buddha of the Buddha dojo. In the dojo of the Tongtian Buddha, he heard this voice. This is the power of mind, and only the mighty one standing on the pinnacle of the universe can emit it. Even Zhen Wuyang couldn't do it. Jian Wushuang mastered the extreme way. A thought could turn into a starry sky, and he was the master of the other side of the starry sky. The Tongtian Buddha was able to send out thought power, then it also proved that he had spied the mystery of this universe, but it was still far from the realm of the universe controller. After all, Jian Wushuang once discovered in the starry sky that most of the countless universes were not controlled, and there were very few powerful people who could control the universe. There are even few legends that control the universe. Chapter 51-26. Perhaps those emperors had heard of it, but most of them couldn't even control a realm. The realm is directly divided into size, and Jian Wushuang, who has understood the complete Jidao, has already seen the essence of the starry sky. Under the starry sky are 9 magnificent time-space rivers and their tributaries. Further down is the universe in the long river of time and space. When the universe was derived, it was composed of countless stars, and the powerful ones that were born later opened up one after another. After all, the huge Big Division domain can be regarded as a medium world, equivalent to a star domain in the universe. If the world of Tongtian Buddhism and the 3,000 great worlds were not divided, they could be regarded as a high world, but now they are divided into 3,000 middle worlds and hundreds of millions of lower worlds. However, the Tongtian Buddha controlled the heavens, which was the most powerful realm before the higher world was divided. Controlling the heavens is considered to have the right to speak in the 3,000 great worlds. However, the heaven realm is now only a medium world, but its background is several times higher than that of the normal medium world. The emperor of the normal medium world is not his opponent at all. These were all learned by Jian Wushuang from spying on the starry sky. If one day he becomes the master, he will step up to the sky and become the master of the starry sky. Then he will surpass everything. But let's live alive now. Nowadays, Yang Li suddenly appeared in the great wilderness. With his current knowledge, he had guessed that it was made by the old guy in the ancient times. The scope of the great wilderness is so wide that it can be comparable to the middle world, but there is no growth power here, otherwise this world has long been controlled by the emperors who are looking for the unowned world. Now that Yanli appeared, the plan of the man behind it was estimated to be to control the great wilderness, to leap forward that step and become the master of this world. As for why such ample strength suddenly appeared, Jian Wushuang scanned the countless Dayan immortals around him, sneered, and could only secretly sigh Dao's ruthlessness. The power of mind was as flat as water in the void, but all the corpses on the battlefield were shaken, the body seemed to be bound by countless tentacles, and the movement became abnormally slow. Xiong Bingyun, as the Dayan immortal of the 9th rank consummation, could also clearly feel a pressure. Although this pressure could not interfere with his movements, it made his soul very painful and uncomfortable, so that he was a little anxious when he was originally composed. Can't delay, this person is too weird, you must kill him quickly. With a virtual grip in one hand, the space instantly collapsed, and a totem of an ancient giant beast appeared. In the world of lore, the ancient giant beasts came across from the ancient times as if they had heard the call. The totem at Xiong Bingyun's feet revolved, as the Dayan immortal with the 9 revolutions of consummation had reached the stage of absolute reality, and at this moment, he was an ancient giant beast. The huge blood claw grabbed to Jian Wushuang. The claw that pierced the world could not distinguish between enemies and friends, and even the corpses around Jian Wushuang were torn apart. Faced with such a claw, Jian Wushuang's figure did not dodge, and the suppression of mind power is not only that, mind power derives mind power, and mind power is omnipotent. As the blood claw fell, Jian Wushuang shouted Universe, Wang. The next moment, the great wilderness began to shake, and the heavenly Tao that existed in the great wilderness began to shrink like a cat meeting a mouse. At the moment Da Huang appeared to be powerful, Da Huang immediately gave birth to a great road. Although the great road is ruthless, it has a trace of consciousness to run the rules of heaven and earth. When Jian Wushuang exerts his thought power, it makes it fearful. After all, it is just a way of heaven comparable to the middle world. How dare to compare with the power of thought of the derivative universe? When he uses one thought of the universe, heaven will automatically evade. The endless force of extension will be integrated with it. Without the restriction of heaven, the force of extension can be mobilized at will, as much as you want. A miniature universe with a diameter of 1 million miles instantly enveloped the edge of the battlefield. Although Jian Wushuang is not invincible in this universe, it is still more than enough to use such a huge amount of power to deal with a 9-turned consummation Dayan immortal. Xiong Bingyun's blood claws were like tickling in his universe, and he stopped the scratch with a sword. Xiong Bingyun is very familiar with the suppression of this avenue. Zhen Wuyang did just that, using the power of Dacu to kill them in the wilderness. Now this power has suppressed him again. How is it possible that you are the emperor? Xiong Bingyun couldn't believe it. If the opponent is the emperor, why bother to kill him with a few random moves? In the past, Zhen Wuyang mobilized the power of Dacu to kill countless Dayan immortals. This power was not used at will. It would damage the origin of the world every time. When the world controller is less than in case, absolutely not will mobilize the power of the origin of the world. Seong Bingyun didn't know much about the secrets in this area, but he recognized this power, and only the world controller could master it. Am I an emperor? You will know if you try it. Jian Wushuang replied without talking nonsense. He is now only a 3-turned Dayan immortal. It is very difficult to manipulate a microcosm of millions of miles, at least in terms of mental strength. Can't bear it. But being able to perform this trick is already amazing, thanks to his mastery. The miniature universe is many times stronger than the former sword world, and in his universe, any avenue can be changed. Such as the current kendo, Wushuang divine sword was swung out, and the sword aura burst out. The tip of the sword pointed directly at Seong Bingyun, almost as fast as a teleportation. Within these million miles, he could reach any place at any time. Seong Bingyun had no time to resist, so he could only take the sword, the fierce Wushuang divine sword, and directly cut off half of his palm. Seong Bingyun, who had already cultivated his body into immortality, didn't care at all. Instead, when he was close, he brazenly shot and punched his chest. The Wushuang Excalibur rushed to resist, but the 9-turn consummation Dayan immortal, even in the microcosm, still had terrifying strength. Through the Wushuang Excalibur, more than 90% of the power had been removed to bombard his divine body. It still made his throat sweet, almost vomiting blood on the spot. The fight between the two was very fast, and there was no idle time at all. Seong Bingyun gradually became familiar in the microcosm, and he was already very strong in close combat. Although the sword master killed and fell, his defense was not strong. The two of them played against each other. Seong Bingyun's attack and defense were extremely strong, and the speed was not slow, but within this million miles, the place was too small to be displayed, while Jian Wushuang was free to shuttle in the micro-universe, arriving at any time. Anywhere. Fortunately, there is this point that can suppress Seong Bingyun, otherwise he will have to explain it here if he gets 2 more punches. This is because of the blessing of the microcosm. His power can be comparable to that of the Dayan immortal of the 9th revolution of consummation, and even surpasses the 9th revolution of consummation in speed. Jian Wushuang's figure disappeared again. The step-by-step guidance finally achieved his goal. Chapter 51-27. When his figure appeared again, Jian Wushuang had already reached the very edge of the battlefield. The few rank 6 Dayan immortals hiding on the edge had no time to react. They were cut off their heads by Jian Wushuang with one sword. The speed was incredible. The reason why it can be effortless is mainly because these rank 6 Dayan immortal level corpse armors have no defense at all. His battle with Seong Bingyun caused these conscious Dayan immortals to relax their vigilance, thinking that even if Seong Bingyun was there, even if he was suppressed by a thought universe, it would not affect them too much. Moreover, these rank 6 Dayan immortal level corpse battle armors are all at the very edge, and can leave the scope of the universe for 1 year at any time. Jian Wushuang slowly put down the little novice monk in his hand, staring at Seong Bingyun, who was furious in the distance, and said lightly, "I don't know why you will recover, and I don't know your purpose, but since you have to die, then don't be my kind. Killing so many of my men in a wave of hands, you are really kind. Although the army of corpses is almost endless, the grey-white ancient land has been hollowed out more than half, and the rest is estimated to be as much as 1/3. Most of them are battle armors comparable to Dayan immortals, and only a few have consciousness. The strength can reach the 3rd rank. The corpse armor of rank 6 Dayan immortal level is so rare that Jian Wushuang killed a few people casually. Even Seong Bingyun felt a little distressed. He didn't participate much in the big plans of the year, and the core was controlled by those emperors, but since the corpse army was revived, these people must still be useful. The loss was too much, and it was not easy to explain to the Lord. They shouldn't have existed. I am not a slaughter. On the contrary, he has to thank me. Jian Wushuang's mouth leaked a sneer, and then he said, "Your strength is at least the 9th rank perfect Dayan immortal. I really don't know why these people died. I don't really think that Zhang Wuyang was ruthless and deliberately killed. He wasn't hiding and choking anymore, and he asked loudly, There were so many Dayan immortals in the ancient times, and half of them belonged to the 5 emperors. These Dayan immortals are also far and near. If it were 3 or even 4 generations of disciples, would they really fight against Zhen Wuyang for those emperors? Even this half of Dayan immortal swears allegiance to death and fears death. But now the Dayan immortal, who turned into a corpse in the great wilderness, is not only half of the Wangu era. According to his speculation, if these corpses were all Dayan immortal before their fall, then the Dayan immortal in the Wangu era was almost all killed by Zhen Wuyang. Obviously, he has taken control of the Daci domain, and what Zhen Wuyang wants to get rid of are those emperors. As for Dayan immortals, those who resist will also be killed easily, but there is no need to kill 90% of the Dayan immortals in Daci domain. There must be something strange in this. Those powers can explain the problem, the corpse recovers and powers erupt. These Dayan immortals were probably forced to die back then, and the person who planned behind the scenes was probably just for the growth of their bodies. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He couldn't imagine. The death of countless Dayan immortals revived the great wilderness, creating a path of heaven comparable to the middle world. The heavenly Tao at this time is extremely weak. As long as there is the strength of the emperor, it can be completely controlled, and then directly take that step and become the master of this great wilderness. These corpses of the Dayan immortal were chess pieces, and even those emperors regarded themselves as chess pieces. Once there was any mistake in the middle, they would really fall. When Da Huang regained its recovery, the emperors of Zhen Wuyang and Tongtian Buddhism would be cheaper. Now that the horrible existence is resurrected, the big plan has been completed, and he will not let him go. Jian Wushuang, who inferred all this, had gleaming eyes. If he wanted to escape from here, he had to take a gamble. Since the corpse has recovered, it has his value. If he can kill these corpses on a large scale, the existence will definitely be mad. Hua Qing, the purpose of your coming to Darciu is to save the immortal, right? The sudden question made the little novice monk stunned for a moment, and then nodded heavily. My master and I are under the master of immeasurable Buddha, and the master teaches us to preach in Darciu. The little novice monk without any scheming has nothing to say after the masters have fallen. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly and touched the head of the little novice monk. Then you are busy today. Busy? Can a good man give pointers? The little novice monk didn't understand for a while. Although they are now on the edge of the corpse army, the blue armor overhaul didn't let them off at all. I will send these corpses to the Lord Buddha later, so please help them out first. Jian Wushuang's voice was loud, and Xiong Bingyun, who was standing in the distance, also heard it. If someone else said this, he would definitely sneer, but the strange power displayed by Jian Wushuang made him extremely vigilant. Especially at Yin Yan Universe, he didn't understand the flaw of this trick. Although the effect was the same as the domain, the energy running inside was extremely terrifying. A diameter of just 1 million miles can be comparable to that of the 9-turn consummation Dayan immortal, and that power of thought has always made him restless, and even made him retreat. You wait for the order, all withdraw from this area. Xiong Bingyun raised the bronze token in his hand, his voice was like Hongzhong. Millions of corpses within 1 million miles raised their heads to look at Xiong Bingyun. Only started to evacuate in an orderly manner, rushing towards the outside world. With a thought of the universe, Jian Wushuang can at most control the most central origin, and can only display the semi-finished products now. Today this small universe cannot be regarded as a universe, at best it can be regarded as a prototype. The real one-mind universe, according to Jian Wushuang's calculations, requires mental and thought power to reach an unbelievable level. Once the universe is formed, it can even be preserved forever. Even if the caster falls, it can exist forever. When he was in the starry sky, he thought about whether those universes were created by some powerful person. Now that he thought about the universe, he understood that if he wanted to truly create the universe, the difficulty was billions of times more difficult than controlling a universe. Even if the small universe he is using now seems to be like his own domain, it is really difficult for ordinary monks to use it, just thinking and mind. It's okay to say that mental strength is that the world of Tongtian Buddha can barely find a few strong people in this area, but thought strength is something vague, although everyone has it, but the strength of mind strength is different. Some people's mind power can take things out of space. For example, it is so powerful that it can make a big mountain collapse. But this kind of mind power is too far apart to create the universe or to condense a world through the mind power. However, Zhen Wushuang is now able to deploy a million-mile-sized microcosm, and there is a million-mile blessing within the universe. At this point, the power of mind is far beyond ordinary emperors. Chapter 51-28. Extreme. It is the limit that this starry sky can bear and the limit that the starry sky can expand. Having mastered the complete limit, he has already embarked on the road to control the starry sky. One thought of the universe is just a microcosm of the starry sky. If the strength is strong enough, the starry sky will fall within a single thought, and then Zhen Wushuang will be truly invincible. But now with the microcosm of Yin-Yang universe, it can be compared to the 9th rank Dian Immortal, and he can barely survive under the 9th rank consummation Dian Immortal. This is the power of Jidao. Zhen Wushuang could make this miniature universe shake the great desolate way, and almost all the corpses in the miniature universe were suppressed. Millions of corpses wanted to be like puppets, unable to go out at all. Only a few corpses with the power of rank 6 Dian could barely drag their bodies out of the scope of the microcosm. What are you going to do? Xiong Bingyun didn't understand why he had to use most of his strength to suppress these ordinary corpses. Wouldn't these corpses leave him more relieved of his burden? Indeed, if there is only Xiong Bingyun in the microcosm, his burden will be reduced a lot, but Xiong Bingyun has been pestering him. Even if there is no corpse, he cannot escape. Since there is no way to escape, give the other party a draw. I said, I won't be as polite as I was just now. As soon as his voice fell, he manipulated the entire microcosm to swallow the endless power in the void, forming billions of powerful sword auras. When he raised his hand and fell, countless sword auras ran across the void, and each of them had his ordinary sword. Power, billions of times, slashed to the corpses in the microcosm. Stop it to me. Xiong Bingyun's body was completely transformed into a wild ancient behemoth, and tens of thousands of sword auras were scattered with one claw, but this sword aura was almost useless for hundreds of millions of sword auras. He could only watch the millions of corpses turned into powder and killed millions of Dian Immortals with a thought. The scenes of this scene reminded him of Zhen Wuyang in the ancient times. Thinking back to the shame back then, Xiong Bingyun was extremely angry at this moment. Today, I want you to die, boom. Countless corpse powder scattered from the void was like heavy snow, and Xiong Bingyun turned into a barren ancient behemoth. Zhen Wushuang quickly grabbed the little novice monk and moved the void. Are you going crazy? It seems that you still haven't killed enough. The little novice monk lowered his head and rubbed the beads in his hand. Good fellow, I have saved these Dian Immortals, you can rest assured to kill. Xiong Bingyun almost vomited blood when he heard the words of the two of them. If it weren't for the master's big plan, he would have been besieging Zhen Wushuang with a number of rank 9 Dian Immortals. Outside the ancient bronze temple, 2 men in black robes sat cross-legged in front of the door of the ancient temple. Who is this person? Such strength is in the age of ancient times. There should be some names. Could it be that it has only risen in recent years? Zhen Wushuang had the strength of rank 9, and he could still compete with Xiong Bingyun, who was perfect in rank 9. In their opinion, he was definitely not an unknown person. It is very likely that they are the superpowers who have become famous since the ancient times, otherwise they would not come to Da Huang to spy on their big plans at this time. Thanks, but he can't see his identity from the outside, but I can feel the breath of real Wuyang in him, and I will keep this person no matter what. Yu Du sat cross-legged in a high position. He was one of the Lord's left and right guardians, and the Lord's closest confidant. It's not that simple to keep him. You and I must protect the Temple of Chishan and not leave anymore. I'm afraid Zhen Wuyang in the Daisy domain has already discovered us, so you can't be careless. Back then, the two of them entered the Temple of Chishan and fell asleep together with the Lord. The Lord once instructed them to lead the corpse to protect the Temple of the Gods when they wake up again, and no one should be allowed to approach them. At this time, the critical moment of the Lord's recovery has come, and if there is a difference, the two can't afford it. Since the siege can't be achieved, let this person be led to another place. There should be no more big movements here. It is good. In the miniature universe. After destroying 1,000,000 corpses, Yin-Yang universe has weakened a lot again, but without the burden of the other corpses before, its strength blessing has not dropped much. But even so, Zhen Wushuang was still unable to face Xiong Bingyun head-on in strength, and could only dodge around. I can't use it any longer, my thought power has reached its limit, and I must throw him away. Zhen Wushuang frowned and his body shape changed again. The old guy from the ancient times is really difficult. Xiong Bingyun's shot fell through the sky, his blood-colored eyes turned, and he adjusted his figure in an instant. When Zhen Wushuang had just torn the void and appeared, he predicted his position in advance, and a sharp claw suddenly pierced Zhen Wushuang's body. Golden blood spilled into the void on the spot, but time and space changed again, and Xiong Bingyun hurriedly flashed away. After stabilizing his figure, he realized that everything was an illusion just now, but Zhen Wushuang took the opportunity to cut a hideous wound on his back with a sword. Rebel. Huh. You have a thick skin. The fight between the two makes the entire microcosm tremble, and the heavens are screaming. Wang, the aura deposited in the Wangu era, erupted, and a gust of enthusiasm spread from the Temple of Chishan, so that the two players who fought against each other had a meal. Haha, my lord has completely recovered, the rebels will die. That breath rose to the sky, and it was from the Temple of Forbidding God. Zhen Wushuang saw this burst of heart, and his heart throbbed. The waste that was killed by Zhenwuyang town, what can it do if it recovers? None of you can stop me today. Zhen was divine sword slanted slightly in his hands, and his eyes showed determination. Over the years, how many times he fought, and that time was not to get out of adversity, but he never gave up a chance to get to this day. Dare to insult the Lord, even if Zhenwuyang comes today, I want you to die. The glory of the Wangu era is the Emperor. They and these Dayan immortals are all shining, and insulting the Lord is the same as insulting them and insulting the glory of the Wangu era. Just as the two of them were fighting, a luxurious middle-aged man on the edge of the great wilderness was constantly shining, and every time he moved his figure, he traversed the endless void. If it was Dayan immortal, it would take 100 years to pass. But the middle-aged man walked directly across the board. When encountering some powerful ancient relics, they also directly rushed into it. The formations, spirits, and guardians were all annihilated in an instant. The strength of the incoming people exceeded the rules of this world. Wearing a high crown of white jade, a golden robe, and a noble face. This person is Zhenwuyang. He had already noticed the abnormal movement of the great wilderness. He originally thought it was because his hometown in the ancient times was unwilling and wanted to make a comeback. But what he didn't expect was that those old guys actually controlled the legendary Temple of the Gods. No wonder that 5 emperors were born in ancient times and so many Dayan immortals appeared. Chapter 51-29. In the Temple of Chishan. The huge blue ancient temple reveals mystery and exudes an ancient atmosphere. Empty, chaotic, and quiet. A golden skeleton sits above the ancient throne, and there are also dozens of ancient thrones beside it. And behind the throne is a huge mysterious statue. Jia Jia. After a strange noise, a ray of light ignited in the eyes of the golden skeleton. True Wuyang. Well, is this him really? Unexpectedly, his dog's nose is so sharp, he discovered the Temple of Chishan so soon. Ah, kill him, kill him. Rebel, I want him to die. At the same time, the bones on dozens of ancient thrones were all awake, and their eyes were full of anger. They roared at Zhenwuyang's name. One can imagine how much they hate Zhenwuyang in their hearts. Broken my road to the top of the universe. If you don't kill him, it will be difficult to vent the hatred in my heart. The Tao of Heaven has already emerged in the great wilderness. Although it is still very weak, it is comparable to the middle world, and the great wilderness has no traces. I have comprehended the endless years of the statue of the gods. To improve it, the Lord of the universe is too far away, and I am satisfied to be able to cross the second step. The golden bones on the other thrones changed color one after another, unwilling to say, 6 crows, what do you want to do? If you control this way now, you know that it is difficult for you to go further in your life. Young Jun, you really think it's so easy to control the universe? As far as I know, we are in the original universe and the surrounding universes have not had the Lord of the Universe. Apart from the record of the Lord of the Universe in the Temple of Chishan, who else can you say? Ever. The others also thought to themselves, but they were still not reconciled. They became emperors in the Wangu era, all relying on the existence of the Temple of Chishan. Looking forward to the birth of Da Yu, everyone looked forward to their faces. The Temple of Chishan did not belong to the Daci domain. In ancient times, the Temple of the Chishan came from the void and descended on the Daci domain. At that time, the human monks were still very rare, and most of them were wild ancient beasts or unique special beings. They discovered the speciality of the Chishan temple early, and thus became a dazzling existence, smooth sailing to achieve the position of emperor. 18 gods and generals were established in the Chishan temple, and all the 18 emperors in the ancient times became the 18 gods and generals of the Chishan temple. 18 emperors master the devouring Tao of the god of discord. As long as they cultivate to the peak, they can swallow the universe and become the master of the universe recorded in the temple of God of Discord. This is also the reason why they do not control the Da Psi domain, nor leave the Da Psi domain. Their 18 emperors were all dreaming of reaching the sky in one step and becoming the master of the universe, but they didn't expect to have a true Wuyang halfway through. A reserve who inherited Zhenwu Dao, all the way to the top, crushed their Dao with his own hands, and suppressed them in this great wilderness. They probably knew how powerful Zhen Wuyang was in the Wangu era. Since Dacu was under the control of Zhen Wuyang, he has never tried his best, no one knows how strong he is now. Liu Crow, you really think it over, what you gave up is the way of the gods. An emperor with a light on his eyebrows roared. He entered the temple of Chishan since he was weak and has always believed in the gods. At this time, traitors appeared among them, which made some emperors unacceptable. Liu Crow snorted coldly, turned his head to look at the angry emperor, and said coldly, "Idiot, you have copied the statue of God for so many years, I haven't seen you become the Lord of the Universe. If you really become the Lord of the Universe, Lord, I have inherited the position of the 3 great gods. Why should I give up the road of the gods and go to the way of the gods of the wild?" The Temple of Chishan not only established 18 gods, but also established 3 big gods, 108 messengers. The requirements for becoming a messenger are the lowest, as long as the 9th rank Dayan Immortal can become a candidate messenger, and when he reaches the 9th rank consummation, he can become a distracted messenger, inheriting an emperor's way, and as long as he follows the Great Road, he will definitely become an emperor. The requirements of the gods are higher, and they must be emperors to inherit. Once they inherit, they will be taught to swallow the avenue, which is an avenue to become the master of the universe. The Lord of the Universe is a legendary character in the long river of time and space. If countless universes know that there is an avenue that allows the monks to go to the Lord of the Universe, it will probably shake the entire starry sky and cause endless wars. Moreover, the Temple of Chishan has also established a supreme rule. The heirs of the 3 major gods can explore the starry sky and where there are the secrets of the supreme rules. If anyone can comprehend the supreme rules, he can inherit the temple of the gods and become the supreme owner. These secrets are only known to them, gods and generals, that is, knowing the benefits, they refuse to inherit a small domain and climb step by step. Not to mention inheriting the Temple of Fortune, even if you just master the complete devouring avenue and become the master of the universe, it has already made countless emperors crazy. There was a moment of silence in the hall. Well, since Liu Crow has chosen the road of the desolate godlord, let him go. Yang Jun turned his head and glanced at the others, and then said, "Don't forget, Zhen Wuyang has already discovered the Temple of Chishan. The powerhouses in other realms will soon find out. If there is no one, if you give up the devouring avenue, who will control the great wilderness? No one controls the great wilderness. How do we deal with those emperors who have taken the first step? Although they walked on the great avenue of devouring, they were much stronger than ordinary emperors, but if they faced those emperors who took the first step, they would have no power to fight back. Even if they are not in the world controlled by the opponent, they are far from opponents." At this time, Liu Crow came forward to control the great wilderness, mastering the great avenue of the God-Lord Wild Wilderness, and could use the Chishan Temple to quickly upgrade the Great Wilderness to the higher world. When they become the top emperor, they can also protect the Temple of Chishan. As long as the Lord of the Universe does not come out, they are absolutely safe in the Great Wilderness. In that case, Liu Crow will ask you in the future, otherwise I will have to take the Temple of Chishan to escape for a long time. The expressions of the other emperors also changed extremely quickly. Although they believed in the gods and highly respected the gods, in this situation, it is still important to keep the temple of the gods first. Several emperors quickly discussed a result, and Liu Yue took the initiative to control the temple of Qi. And Zhan Wuyang has reached the depths of the Great Wilderness at a very fast speed. Do not! Zhan Wuyang roared, and he could feel that a heavenly path had appeared in the Great Wilderness, and it had been controlled by others. Damn old guy, I can't get the Temple of Forbidden God, and you don't want to occupy it. An extra primitive token appeared in his hand, and then he urged his might to spread a message throughout the universe. Chapter 51:30. Once the news of the Temple of Chishan spread, the entire universe was shaken. The Temple of Chishan, which had been rumored in the ancient times, once again descended on the Daci domain, instantly causing countless emperors to go crazy. In the ancient times, the Great Division territory stunned countless surrounding territories. Although the Great Division region did not have a control, no emperor dared to invade at will. In that era, there was a rumor that Darciu had a temple that drifted from the long river of time and space, that is, that temple created the glory of Darciu. There were many people who believed in this information back then, but since there were more than a dozen emperors in Darciu, no one dared to explore it. Until Zhan Wuyang was born and suppressed dozens of emperors and took control of the entire Daci domain, no one would believe in the existence of Chishan Temple. At this time, the Great Wilderness changed. Zhan Wuyang personally reported that the Temple of Chishan really existed in the Daci domain, causing countless greed. After all, a super treasure that can give birth to dozens of emperors in a middle-level realm is enough to make the 9-turn consummation Dian Immortal go crazy and obsess those emperors who have not taken the first step. Even those Dao ancestors who took the first step in the dojo are facing it seriously. In the universe, there is endless territory. The ancient gods of the higher world. On the Ancestor Demon Mountain, in the glorious ancient temple surrounding the entire Demon Mountain, several emperors have gathered. An ancient with a brow surrounded by 7 stars said respectfully, "Master, there is news from Zhan Wuyang of Darciu that the Temple of Chishan is once again present." Above the hall, stood an 8-star ancient god, who was the master of the ancient gods. His own path perfectly blended with the ancient gods, and he was the master of the higher world. The 8 stars at the center of his eyebrows represented the dignity of his blood. In the ancient god realm, except for the first 9-star ancient god, his bloodline is the highest. Temple of Chishan. The 8-star main swayed his tail, pondered for a while and said, "Immediately summon all the emperors of the ancient gods and the 9-turned consummation Dian Immortal. I will go and notify the ancestor." Although he is the ruler of the ancient gods, such major events still need the ancestor's decision. Because the ancestor of the ancient gods was the only ultimate emperor in the entire universe. Moreover, he is the ultimate emperor who masters the path of destruction, and the first ancient of the ancient gods, possessing the perfect bloodline of 9 stars. If the ultimate way is not too strong, the ancient gods cannot bear the pressure of the ultimate way, nor will let a post-sorrow control the ancient realm. The top of the magic mountain, outside an ancient cave. "Master Beishan, why are you here?" Seeing the Lord of Beishan hurriedly rushing, the emperor guarding the cave gate was a little surprised. "The psychic emperor, please inform the ancestor of the great Siyu that something has happened and that a treasure was born." The psychic emperor is also an 8-star ancient god. He has a clone who follows the ancestor all the year round. The main body controls a medium-sized world and follows the ancestor for many years. His status is extremely high. Even if he is the master of the ancient gods, was also very polite when he treated this emperor of the same clan. Hearing that the strange treasure was born, the psychic brows moved slightly, and my heart was a little puzzled. But no matter that Beishan was the master of the ancient gods, it was not easy to say anything, so I asked him to wait for a while, and he himself entered the ancestor. Inside the cave. What kind of exotic treasure has attracted so much attention from Beishan, and was born in Darciu? Big division domain. ISNT that the dojo of Zhen Wuyang. Could it be? The pace of the psychic can't help speeding up a bit. If the temple was born, the ancestor should be notified immediately. Ancestor. The psychic came to a quiet room with red light. Quiet room. The ancestor of the ancient gods was sitting cross-legged on the edge of a tan. Look from the front. He. Wearing a set of test armor, very ordinary, but when you look carefully, you will feel that the armor is like inlaid on his body, changing colors from time to time, and at the center of his eyebrows, it symbolizes the blood of the peak ancient god. Surrounded by stars. The breath radiating from him is different from any strong man, even the ruler of the North Mountain, who is enough to rank in the top 100 in this universe, cannot match. If Jian Wushuang was seeing it at this time, he might be familiar with this kind of breath. Because he, like this ancient god, holds the ultimate way. The difference is that the ancestor of the ancient is the ultimate emperor, and Jian Wushuang now is only the 3-turn great Yangxian. Even if he masters the extreme way, he is like an ant in front of the ultimate emperor. What disturbs me? The ancient ancestor still closed his eyes tightly, and slowly said, "Tell the ancestor, it is the news from Beishan that there is a strange treasure in the big division area, and the ancestor must come forward and determine." The psychic outside the door respectfully said. The ancestor of the ancient suddenly opened his eyes, and his expression was overjoyed. DACU. Fortunately, I did not leave the original universe, haha, those old guys left the original universe, looking for the way to become the master of the universe, it is ridiculous. Go ahead and all the emperors in Yizhuxiang will gather in the ancient temple. In just half a day, there are hundreds of higher worlds and tens of thousands of middle-world capitals in the primitive universe of with the powerful under their commanders to the big division domain. Dao Ancestor, all the 9th-rank consummated Dayan immortals in our great dream realm are dispatched together. Is this necessary? Yeah. Dao Ancestor's strength is overwhelming, and it has been crushed for an era, and the forces in the border area will not give us a big dream. A flat boat shuttles continuously in the void, with speed and fastness, crossing a boundary every time it crosses. This flat boat is the eternal treasure, even among the emperors and ancestors, few have such treasures. Above the Bianzhou, the Taoist ancestor of the great dream realm listened to the disciples and snorted. You underestimated the attraction of Chishan Temple, and you underestimated Emperor Dao. A sword fairy in a Qingyi lotus dress was a little puzzled, and asked, "Master, is there such a miraculous thing in the temple of Chishan that it can help immortal Dayan become an emperor?" The other disciples also looked at the Dao ancestor of the great dream realm, looking forward to answering. I don't know much about the mystery of the Chishan temple, but one thing is true. There were dozens of emperors born in the Daci domain, but none of them controlled the Daci domain and did not leave the Daci domain, but has been hiding in the big division area for many years to practice in retreat, and the strength is surprisingly strong. Dao Ancestor said here, unavoidably recalling the person he met back then, who obviously did not control the realm, but had the strength comparable to him. The Great Avenue was strong, incredible. Is an emperor who doesn't even have a dojo really that strong? Don't worry too much, everyone. With the Dao Ancestor, they can't get over any storm. Dameng Daoza's face changed slightly, looking at the dozens of disciples on the Bianzhou, a little disappointed, but also helpless. https:// Please remember the domain name of this book's first publication, Apex Novel Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 51-31. He has made great achievements. Although he is only the master of the middle world, his strength is no weaker than those of the masters. Therefore, their great dream realm is also somewhat famous in the inner of the primitive universe. Because of his indisputable character, he has high prestige in the surrounding area. The powerhouse of the great dream realm went to other realms to roam, relying on his reputation to rise up, but he also lost his fear. The awe of the emperor, the awe of the universe. But in the end, those disciples can't be blamed. The great dream world has seen him as an emperor for countless years, and he has risen smoothly. He was born in a famous family and grew up from Tianjiao to the emperor. In the end, he became the emperor in one fell swoop, and the emperor who has mastered the extremely powerful way. In his heart, the sect has always been the big one, following the master's will and guarding the big dream world. But now it seems that his way of guarding is too doting, which has caused the young generation of Tianjiao to be proud. Little guys, do you know that the emperor is also divided into strong and weak? Everyone nodded. Of course you know. Well, now that I know, how about my strength in the emperor? Everyone nodded faster this time. Taozu, you are the top emperor. You can also say that our Tao ancestor is the emperor in countless realms with Megatron. Many people took the opportunity to flatter, and many really admired him too much, thinking that Daozu was the strongest emperor in their hearts. Da Meng Daozu held back his smile, raised his hand and signaled, "Well, I will explain to you how the strength of the emperor is divided while on the way." Looking at these 3 or even 4 generations of disciples, Da Meng Daozu began to talk about the various forces in this visit to the Temple of Chishan. The lowest threshold for the contenders of this Temple of the Gods is the perfect Dian Immortal of rank 9. Ordinary monarchs and even the emperors who have taken the first step cannot make any waves. The superpowers who really know the secrets of the Temple of the Gods are the masters. The emperor's combat power also has an extremely harsh division. The whole can be transformed into a 6th order. The most ordinary emperor has just mastered the emperor's avenue, and the avenue is very ordinary, and the emperor who can only control some lower realms is the 1st order emperor. The 2nd-tier combat power is those emperors who have mastered the lower world. Although they have also taken a step, their strength has not changed much. The emperor who has mastered the medium avenue and did not control the medium world to establish his own dojo is also considered a 2nd-order combat power. The normal master of the middle world has established his own dojo and mastered the middle world, which is considered a Tier 3 combat power. Even if the immeasurable Buddha in the world of Tongtian Buddhism is an emperor at this level, this is also the top level of most emperors. Most emperors mastered a small path, and it was extremely difficult even to become a Taoist ancestor in the lower world. It was their lifelong dream to become a 3rd order. The 18 gods in the Temple of Chishan are also considered 3rd order combat power. Their swallowing avenue is the ultimate way, and it is the ultimate way of the master of the universe. Although they have not been fully grasped, the ultimate of the universe Tao is so powerful. As long as you can comprehend the 3rd level, you can have the 3rd order combat power. Once you master it, you will be the master of the universe, and even half of the comprehension can conquer the entire primitive universe. As for Tier 4 combat power, the avenue of the higher world is needed. The ruler of Beishan of the ancient gods and the rulers of other higher worlds are at this level. They dominate a higher world, omnipotent, and can deal with ordinary emperors. Suppress. Monarchs with this level of strength can run wild in a universe, and no one can threaten them. They are all overlords of one party, dominating the world. If Tier 3 is the strong among emperors, then Tier 4 is the strong in the universe. In addition to those who control the higher world, there are also some emperors who can reach this level. The real Wuyang of Darciu, the Buddha of the Buddha realm. Although these 2 people only mastered the middle world, their Tao was extremely powerful. If it weren't for the higher worlds in the primitive universe, they would be able to control the higher worlds. Their Tao is also a top-level Tao that can rival the ultimate Tao. If they take one step further, they can fully elevate their dojo to the higher world. At that time, they can take one step further. And Beishan dominates the masters of those higher worlds, and many of them just master the upper avenues, and they will be trapped for a lifetime. Zhen Wuyang is different. He owns Zhenwu Avenue, which is a complete top-level avenue. As long as the realm is raised, he can open up a higher world by himself. The realm's strength skyrocketed and he is expected to hit the 5th level. But the difficulty is also very terrifying. In the primitive universe, there are only a few that can be done. These 5-tier powerhouses have also traveled to other universes long ago, because at their level, it is too difficult to go further. Only enter the long river of time and space for rafting, looking for some ancient relics, or the secret realm of the universe to explore the universe. The fifth-order combat power can be regarded as the ceiling of the original universe. Now in the original universe, only the ancestors of the ancient gods are still there, and the other fifth-order powerhouses have left the original universe. If you know that there is an avenue leading to the Lord of the Universe in the Chishan Temple, I am afraid that the intestines of these fifth-tier top powerhouses will be regretted. However, if their strength is not in some dangerous secret realms, it is still very simple to return, but they will lose the priority of the first wave. Dameng Daozu explained the division of the Emperor's strength so that these disciples who had just entered the universe knew that there was a sky outside the sky. Taozu, you are on that floor. The third floor. The disciples were silent. The Taoist ancestors who have always admired are only the strength of the third-order emperor, and many of the emperors who went to the Chishan this time are the fourth-order dominators, and even the fifth-order top powers came from other universes. These ninth-turn complete Dayan immortals are nothing more than cannon fodder. Originally, they wanted to rely on Dao Ancestor to fish in troubled waters, even if they were dangerous. Dao Ancestor could solve them. But now it seems that even Dao Ancestors are at risk of falling, let alone them. Many of them did not have a manager to take the risk of life and death, and at this time some people retreated. But it's too difficult to get the way to become emperors. Although they are a new generation of ninth-ranked perfect Dayan immortals, they are also trapped in several chaos epochs. The shrine's path to God is also dependent on qualifications. These emperors of this generation are at least much stronger than those old guys before. Dameng Daozu also saw the thoughts of these disciples, and was not going to hit them. But when he turned his head, a smile leaked from the corner of his mouth. No one knows his true strength, and even the other emperor in the clan does not know his true strength. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,